What's going on YouTube? WWF Hasbro Man here, back with another video, and today we're going to talk NASCAR Cup Series at Atlanta Motor Speedway, the Folds of Honor Quicktrip 500. This race is March 21st, Sunday, starting at 3 o'clock on Fox. But before we get started, please, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more weekly NASCAR DFS content. Alright, and before we get started, I just want to review my lineup from last week. So last week, I did not get a chance to make a video, and I do apologize for that. But I was able to cash last week. I played the same theme that I feel like I've really been cashing on a lot this year, and that's value. I was able to jam three drivers right here. Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, all, in my opinion, were strong drivers and all had a chance to lead laps. There were some bigger pay-ups, as in Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick, but I didn't go that route because I purposely wanted to jam these three in, hoping one of these three could get some significant bonus points. And that's exactly what happened. Martin Truex and even Denny Hamlin both paid off really good for me. Truex, low owned at 7%, really did it for me. Eric Almirola, 46% owned. Starting 32nd, pretty chalky, pretty obvious, though, to play him. Great return. Cole Custer, he was pretty chalky as well. And again, in that chalky role, he's just not paying off. Just had some late trouble there at the end that dropped him down. Justin Haley, starting 29th, actually finished 24th. Great for Justin Haley. I always say 5,000 and cheaper. You can get me 20-some points. I'll take it every week. So right there, Justin Haley helped me, allowed me to get all three of these dominators in and cash. So that was last week's lineup. So let's get to this week's picks. All right. So on the left, you're looking at my player pool, the guys that I'm taking a harder look at. And then on the right, I just have some historical data. It kind of gives me a snapshot of what the race has been like. So every year you'll see over here on the right, 20, 19, 18, and so on. So typically you have 4.8 cautions average, so take out your 2 for stage breaks. So you're going to have maybe three incidents, give or take. So not too many. The driver that leads the most laps on average is leading 180 laps. There is down here, you'll see there is 325 laps total, 105 stage 1, 210 total then at stage 2, and then 115 for the final run. So there can be some really long runs here, and you really want to nail that dominator. Without that dominator, I mean, I'm recording this at the conclusion of the Xfinity race, and we pretty much watched the truck race, Kyle Busch dominate and get those laps. We watched the Xfinity race, Truex pretty much dominated, got those laps. But the one thing that screwed him is the one thing that we got to be worrisome in, and that's just a stupid penalty. Otherwise, he would have dominated that entire race and won. So, point being, I think it's very important to make sure we're hitting the dominators. So this week, for me, it's going to be pretty interesting when we go through construction, but we'll do that at the end of the video. You can see I highlighted some of the previous winners. Harvick, 2 of the last 4. Keselowski, 2 of the last 4. Good at this track. So that's about it. So let's go through drivers and go through some of my picks. All right, so I'm going to start with 2 drivers, actually. Up top, so Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Keselowski, Hamlin, Elliott, Truex, Logano, and Blaney. So those top 9 drivers, I think they're all viable, to be honest with you. I don't see myself... Maybe if I would say I'd have to fade anybody out and say I don't think he's really got much of a shot, it would be Chase Elliott. But other than that, if any of them led 100 plus laps, you wouldn't surprise me. So what I'm trying to say here is I'm going to pick my poison of Larson and Truex. They're going to be the 2 that I like the most. And the reason being, we'll start with Larson. First of all, he's going to be lesser owned than some of these other guys. I fully expect Martin Truex to be highest owned, probably Kevin Harvick to be the second highest owned, and then possibly Brad Keselowski pretty high owned as well, maybe Joey Logano at that cheaper price tag, and I think Kyle Larson's going to be kind of mid-range. But I think he's as good as any of these picks up here. Hendricks have been very strong cars this year. The mile and a half package has been pretty strong. So he won the last mile-and-a-half race that we had here not here, but we had this year at Vegas. He led 142 laps here at Atlanta in 2019. That was the last time he raced the Cup at this track. And that was in lesser equipment as well. He's in a Hendrick car now. Grip falls off these tires very quickly, becomes pretty slick. And that's how Kyle Larson kind of likes to drive. He's a dirt guy, so he's used to slipping and sliding. I'm going to be honest, I like Kyle Larson a lot. Gives you a little bit of a discount from Harvick and Busch. And then the other guy up here, while we're up here, I'm going to talk about Truex too. He won last weekend. He dominated the Atlanta race earlier today. Maybe not dominated, but he was dominating until a stupid penalty. And he's just too cheap at $9,600. I mean, he's the seventh most expensive. He has the second best average finish at this track over the last 3 races, second to only Kevin Harvick. And, Kevin Harvick just isn't showing me anything this year. And I get he has the best average, and I get he won here last year, and he won a lot of places last year. And I don't feel Kevin Harvick right now, and I don't want to justify paying him as the most expensive driver. I just don't think he's worth it. I want to take the value here in Truex and Kyle Larson. And when we get to roster construction later on, I'm going to actually dive down to some of these cheaper guys and try to get a couple of these dominators. Because I think a couple of these guys, Logano, I think, is too cheap at $9,400. Blaney's there. Keselowski, just as good of a shot. So basically, I want to get as many dominators as possible, and I'm going to start my builds with Kyle Larson and Martin Truex to be my 2 dominators. So that's going to be my first 2 picks. All right, and for our third driver we're going to talk about is Ryan Newman. So down here, $7,100. I think he's fairly priced, probably right around what he typically should be. Starting 28th, though, he has really good place differential. He had a bad finish last week, and he has a really good upside. He has a 16th place average finish, and that's over his career here at Atlanta. Good place differential play. Easily can get you to 5x, which is a good target. I like Ryan Newman in this spot. $7,100. He's going to save you some money. And I'm not in love with too many of these other picks. Cole Custer, he could definitely outperform Ryan Newman, but he is $500 more, and he has had some trouble this year. Chase Briscoe, I feel like people are a little too high on Chase Briscoe, wanting to play him all the time. I haven't seen enough out of Briscoe right now yet, especially at $6,800. I think all these guys right here are just going to kind of finish where they start. So I'm not really in love with any of those plays, but I think what stands out down in this salary saving range, or the start of the salary saving range, if you will, is Ryan Newman. So Ryan Newman would be my third play that I would want to be locking in. All right. And lastly, I'm not going to highlight a particular driver, but I just want to talk about down here, kind of towards the bottom. So Anthony Alfredo and Corey LaJoy kind of seem like the last 2 safe guys that you might want to go to. I don't know what's a better word than safe, but you got to figure they're going to move up a couple spots. Not a lot. They don't have high ceilings, but you have that crop of 6 or 7 cars that you just know are in the last 30 some spots, and unless there's somebody with an accident that moves those drivers up. So Alfredo and LaJoy, there's not going to be a lot of accidents here. I don't really think they're extraordinary plays, but when you're trying to save salary, I think they're the best plays down here. Now, I did mention earlier that I wanted to really take a strong look up top here, and I just want to play around with roster construction. If you go up top here, and let's say we try to grab ourselves Kyle Larson at $10,400, and we try to grab ourselves a Martin Truex. So now we've spent $20,000. So we got 4 drivers left, $30,000. So maybe we are going to go and just try to hit all these dominators. Brad Keselowski, he's been hot this year. Last 3 races, he's led laps. So we now have 19,800 left, so just shy of 20. So if we would try to grab Alfredo and LaJoy as our 2 salary savers, that leaves us 9,000. So it leaves us just short of a guy like Ryan Blaney. starting 10th that actually offers some PD upside and could also get up front and lead. So let's do this again. Let's go with Larson, Keselowski, Truex, and then let's say and I know it's a stretch, but hey, if Alfredo and LaJoy are only going to get you 23 and 19, and Bilicki and Hoffa are each going to get you 10, I mean, you're only really giving up 20 points if you want to go this route. So if you were to go Hauf and Bilicki, you got 10,300 left. So I could grab Denny Hamlin then. So I could have Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex. So I'm going to front load the Dominators. I feel like there's so many Dominators up here. So many of these guys are potential to lead laps, and you don't want to miss it. Because the person that leads, it's happened to me many times, with the person that leads, 150, 200 laps, and scores 120 points, and you don't have it, and 50% of the field had it, well, guess what? You're out of cash game double ups now because you're not hitting your double ups because there wasn't enough laps left for the others to lead. So I am making an emphasis this week of hitting Dominators. I know it's a stretch. Now, when you go down here, and if you don't like that, I'm going to be honest with you. Aside from Ryan Newman, I don't like anybody really here. I mean, okay, Tyler Reddick's not a bad play, but, Tyler Reddick's not going to dominate. He's not going to lead laps. He's going to be right inside the top 20. And that's at $8,400 for Tyler Reddick. He's priced up. Austin Cindric, he might get up to the top 20, but again, he's $8,600. He's a fourth Penske car that doesn't run full time. We don't know much about him. So this is what I'm doing. Larson, Keselowski, Hamlin, Truex is what I'm leaning towards currently. Those top four drivers, basically I'm just looking for bonus points this week. There's 227 bonus points. That's the most we've had all year so far, and I want to get those bonus points. There's other ways you could definitely go. You could go with a more conservative and say, hey, I like the Kevin Harvick up top, and I like the Martin Truex, and I like the Ryan Newman. So then, maybe one of these safer guys. Maybe you want to go Anthony Alfredo. He's often pretty high owned. So now you're left with $16,800. So if you would, that's $8,400 for two drivers. I mean, you couldn't even get Cindric and Reddick if you wanted them. You could get Reddick and Kurt Busch. You could go to Corey LaJoy here, and then you could pay up. You'd have enough for Kyle Larson. That could be your lineup, which, that's good too. I'm not saying that's a bad lineup either. It's probably a little less aggressive with, without so many Dominators up front. But again, I personally this week want to get my Dominators. So I most likely am going to be playing that first lineup. I may pivot to something like this if I feel like I can hit it. But again, I mean, Kevin Harvick, I'm not drawn to him this year. He hasn't done anything. He's started up front and he's lost it right away. I know sometimes some tracks he's better at long runs, but again, I still haven't seen anything from any of the Stewart-Haas cars. So that's it. That's what I'm looking at. I think I'm going to go the way of four strong Dominators. In basketball, when you play basketball DFS, they call it stars and scrubs. So I may be going stars and scrubs and extreme scrubs this week. So a little bit of a stretch play, but hey, what the heck? This is NASCAR DFS. We'll see what happens. So that's going to be it for the video, guys. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more weekly NASCAR DFS content.